Hey there, Soul Shine, it's Michelle here, and I'm inviting you to wake up and live. If you haven't already joined my YouTube family, I invite you to do so now by subscribing and clicking the notification bell so that you know that I've uploaded another wonderful, yummy video. Today, I want to talk about a subject that's kind of a little bit heavy. I'm going to talk about depression and other things that are similar to depression because I've kind of been in a funk lately and I finally figured out what was going on and I wanted to share about it. It is my belief that depression is caused by problems within two main relationships. I base that based off of my own experience. So if this is not your experience, that's okay. But I think that this is kind of true. One of the relationships is with your higher power. For me, that's God, but it could be how you feel about the universe or your higher self, whatever is your higher power. If you have some kind of feelings, negative feelings towards your higher power, it's going to create depression. I just believe that's true. I had this experience. I believe that if you ask, you will receive. And I asked, I was like, okay, I am sick of feeling like you've abandoned me. This is my conversation with God. I'm sick of feeling like you abandoned me. Please give me what I need to heal in the most gentlest way. And at the time, I was just flooding everything that came up with love. So one of my favorite things to do. And I was loving everything that would come up about things. I was loving where I'd feel it in my body, around my body, on my body, wherever. I was just sending things love. And I was experiencing amazing changes. And so I was like, okay, what is it that I'm missing? Why is this abandonment thing not shifting? What in the heck am I missing? And so I asked about it. And I wish I could tell you all the details, but unfortunately I don't remember them. That's how well it healed this and cleared this. It was great. I had just dropped my children off at their dad's and I was driving home and a song came on the radio. I don't remember the song. I just remember it was an old 80s song that I hadn't heard in years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard this song in forever. So I'm listening, singing along because, you know, if you sing the songs while you were in high school, you seem to remember most of the words. It's pretty crazy. But so I was singing along. And I came to this line and there was a term that is similar to abandoned, but not one that I would normally think up. And it was just this word in the song. I haven't even heard the song since. I know that much. And that word, whatever the word was exactly it. And I kind of started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the word. That is what I feel. That is the way I feel. I'm like, I wish I remembered what the word was just so I could share it with people. And so that they could see if maybe that was the word that they needed to heal. So I started loving that word and every word that was bringing up any kind of feelings within me and around me. And I was loving it and loving it and loving it. And I felt my God's presence. I started feeling his love for me. I started realizing that he's always been there. I just haven't always been able to feel him because I had so many feelings towards him. I noticed a lot of times when I start feeling depressed, alone and sad, when I'm feeling that way, if I start looking, well, it used to be, I'll come to this for a second. It used to be that my experience for a good 15 years was depression. Probably, honestly, from the time I got pregnant with my son, because that's probably when I cut off that, like, I felt like I was a horrible, awful person because I got pregnant out of wedlock, and so I probably put the block up between us, punishing myself, if you will. Something we do a lot to ourselves. So I started experiencing depression. Now, I'd had signs of depression before, so it was something I was predisposed to become. Probably something I picked up from watching my mom go through her life. And so I experienced depression. I was depressed most of the time. I would get happy, and if you've experienced like severe chronic depression, you know that when you're happy, you're just sitting there waiting for it to end. You're like, something will make this end. It's never gonna last. I didn't. People would say, find your happy place or find your happy things, and I was like, I don't even know what actually makes me happy. I don't know what joy feels like. I want to, but I don't know. I knew I felt a love for my children, and that was the closest I could come up with. That's how it was. I couldn't even remember what it was like to be a happy child. I'm sure that I had happiness in my childhood, but I could not remember it. I can kind of remember it now, actually, that I think about it. It's really interesting because I couldn't bring up those memories before. And that's how bad things were. And I had people scared for me because of where I was at. I was not suicidal because there was no way I was going to go meet my maker. There was no way that I was going to go meet my maker. And so for me, instead of being suicidal, it was like, if I go up to the mountains and live in a cabin, nobody's going to be aware that I'm gone. Nobody's going to miss me. Nobody's going to care. And if they do care, it's the babies that are depending upon me to feed them and things like that. They're not going to miss me. That's how I felt. And I know so many people out there feel the same way. And then I had this experience and I healed this word, and I started feeling his love for me, and I started becoming aware of it. And since that day, which is now probably 4 years ago, I have very rarely, it flipped everything around. I went to where I was happy. Like, truly, I feel happy 90+% of the time. And when I would get sad or and I started kind of feeling that depression feeling, I always could find the trigger. And it very rarely lasted more than a few hours, because I was looking for the trigger, and I was like, okay, what happened that got me upset? What's going on? I would get angry at God, and I would tell him, this is how I feel. Expressing those feelings, it'd go away, and I'd feel better. Or I would use healing techniques if it was something deeper that came up. And that was part of the big change for me, was really healing that feeling of abandonment by God. Taking care of the angry feelings that I feel or have felt towards God. And even now, if I start to feel depressed, I look at, am I angry at God? That's my number one thing I start looking at. Why am I angry at God? And I will start processing that. Healing it, sending love to it, forgiving myself, forgiving God, forgiving the people around me. But this last week and a half, I've had a different experience. It's kind of felt like depression in that I have felt no motivation. Like, I have been like reconnected with my dream. Like, I want to speak on 30 stages this year. I want to start hosting events, and I like made connections that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can actually get venues for free. Do you know how incredible that is for somebody who's just starting out? That is so incredible to be able to get venues for free. My friend today, she's like, oh my gosh, we should do an event together. And I was like, yes, because I know where we can get a venue for free. How cool is that? So I've had this thing where I felt so connected to my purpose. I have my big dream. Why do I want money? Because I want to own my own place in the mountains where people come for a retreat, and maybe even own one down in Arizona near Sedona or St. George, Utah, somewhere where it's kind of, we travel a little bit and we get to experience the different energy from the red dirt and all that kind of stuff. And I just think it would be really cool to get all these different retreat places where I own them, and that their sole purpose was to invite people to come and heal. I just love it. Ugh. So I got tapped into my dreams, and yet I had no motivation. I was sleeping my mornings away. I wasn't doing my morning routines. I haven't done them in almost 2 weeks because I could not get myself out of bed, and I would crawl back in bed, and I would just scrape up the energy to do my videos because I am so committed and I so love my videos that I was like, okay, I gotta make daily videos. And so I tried to record a couple at a time just to get me through and so I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't have a video for tomorrow, and I'd muster up the energy. And it was frustrating me. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I would look at these different things I was healing. I was like, okay, I looked at all this stuff that came up with money, but I was healing it, but it wasn't changing anything. My friend and I were talking about how as an empath, I connect so deeply with people, but not everybody returns that connection. And so we talked about how I was kind of grieving the loss of those connections from my event that I went to a couple weeks ago. And I was like, that resonates, that makes sense, but it wasn't shifting the energy. So I was like, okay, that's obviously not the whole thing. It did help a little bit. So what's going on? And then I realized what was going on just today. And I feel the difference just in aware and noticing it. I feel alive again, truly alive again. And it was because I was angry at myself. I was angry at having an aspect of myself. I was angry at the standards that I choose to keep because they were preventing me from certain relationships that I wanted. And I was angry about that. I was like frustrated. I felt torn because it's like I really want to keep them because of an outcome that I would like to have. And in order to have that outcome, I need to keep these standards. But I was meeting these people that I was so drawn to, and they didn't have the same standards. And it was pulling me apart, and I was angry, and I was hurt, and I was frustrated. And making that awareness, and that's when it hit me really strongly that there are two relationships. Am I angry at God? If I'm feeling depressed or triggered, am I angry at God? Am I angry at myself? Because you know what? The anger out there, all the judgments, everything outside of you, that's all within you. That's something you can find it yourself. Look inside. Like if you're pointing a finger at somebody, judging somebody, you either have that trait inside of yourself that you're beating yourself up for, or you are terrified of becoming that. And look inside and you heal that, and the stuff going on around you changes. Your need to blame other people, your need to judge other people. So when you're feeling triggered, start looking at how you feel about yourself and look at how you feel about God, because those are the two important relationships. Just like we talk about masculine and feminine energy. Masculine and feminine energy. I don't even know. Maybe they're, because it depends on if you're talking about your brain or your body, because this is the masculine side, this is the feminine side, but this is the masculine side of the brain and the feminine. Crazy, I know. But there's these opposite things. Energy shifts right here, just so you know. So there's these opposites in everything. And some people will talk about how everything's inside of yourself. And there's a degree to where that's true. But if you don't have a higher power or a connection with a higher power, then you're missing out, because you need both. You truly do. You need an outside power to, whether you call it the universe, your higher self, God, that doesn't matter as much as recognizing there's an outside power. And you have this inside power. And if you're hating on yourself or you're hating on God, it's going to create a lousy world. And you're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel angry. You're going to have all kinds of things coming up. I wouldn't even be surprised if half of the serious illnesses out there have some component connected to this. I'm not going to go off and tell you that everything that you think or feel, or every illness that you have is created by that, because I know not everybody's open to that idea. And there are some things, like my son has type 1 diabetes, and I don't know if there's emotions that cause that, or inherited things that cause that. I don't know. It's not my place. It's his. He's 25. He can figure it out for himself. But I do know that emotions and how you feel about yourself creates a lot. And I'm thinking about one particular illness that is probably created by feelings you have towards yourself, towards God, or both. And so if you're watching this because you're experiencing depression, first of all, I get it. I'm so sorry. I want to wrap you in a big hug. I want you to see how amazing and valuable and worth it you are. I want you to know how much you have to give this world. I want you to know that we need you, that you have a gift, and that your experiences are for a reason. And I know that sometimes it will take medications, hormone therapy to help you feel better. But while you're doing that, please also check in. How do you feel about yourself? Are you hating on yourself? How do you feel about God? I mean, really feel about God. And don't be afraid to express your feelings to God, because he knows them anyway. He knows anyway. And he is happy. He wants you to be happy. Oh, he wants you to be happy. He wants you to know you are amazing. He wants you to know you are worth it. So that's just my advice. Check in. And if it doesn't ring true for you, that's okay. But if you are feeling depressed, check in. Check in on how you feel at God. Do you feel like he's there for you? Do you feel like he's abandoned you? And do you feel like you're angry at him? Or he's punishing you? Are you punishing yourself? Check into those kind of things. Dig deep. And if you need help, call out for help. You can come to people like me who do energy work. You can go to counseling and talk about your feelings. Journal your feelings. Do something. Get it out of you so that you can love yourself. So that you can recognize that God loves you. So you can recognize that I love you. Thank you for watching. Remember to let your soul shine big, bright, light, and beautiful. Remember to be you, that you're worth it, you're amazing, you're wonderful. And if you haven't been doing it, ask yourself the why questions. Why am I amazing? Why am I worth it? Why does God love me? Why do I love me? Start asking the questions. Change your life. Find your joy. Find that little spark. There's a chart. Work your way up if that's what it takes. If you can't just jump to a joy space, get to a neutral space. Work your way up the vibration chart. I love you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.